Hey guys, Slater Magic here. We've got more information on who pulled the One Ring in Toronto, Ontario. Toronto, of course, French for the place where everybody in Canada lives. So what we know is they're a retail worker, and that's about it because they're going through something called Notable Group. They're a marketing and PR agency representing them, and then I don't know if this is the same company or not, but they're going through, what term did they use? Oh, an agency they've hired to handle the once-in-a-lifetime sale. Now, why would that be a marketing and PR agency instead of like an auctioneer, bare minimum? I don't know. The bad decisions are stacking up because I think Beckett, they offered to grade it for free, and then PSA charges $10,000 for cards above $250,000. We don't know if they did that in this case, but that's what I heard from another news story, that's what they typically do. Honestly, why would you not go through Beckett? And people online have answered, because it's counterfeit. Okay, I feel like that's probably not the case, but it would be absolutely hilarious. So the only quote we have through the group from the person who pulled it, who is obviously choosing to be anonymous, which is very smart, is, "My hands were literally shaking. I couldn't believe it was real. These things don't happen to people like me." And that's the only quote that I've heard. So why they're going through a marketing and PR agency, unless that's just who they hired to do marketing and PR, but why would they need to? They're not starting a company. Are they going to travel around and show it like the circus? Oh man. Not going with Beckett and then potentially hiring a marketing and PR company to sell it for you? I would dare say that this person ain't too clever. Just from that little bit of knowledge that we've got so far. And then to admit that they work some kind of retail and then give the city, I know it's a very large city, it's probably the person that quit a couple weeks ago, you know what I mean? It's probably the person who quit a couple weeks ago and then in the very near future is going to move and start showing really interesting pictures on social media of the interesting things they bought. They're not exactly being subtle and they're not exactly making wise decisions. So the other interesting news we have is the card was flown to California for authentication. So I also saw an interview with somebody named Brad Hartland from PSA Canada. That's right, there's a PSA Canada, but they're the official agent of them. And then the website seems to say that they will send it to Santa Ana, California. So they don't grade it locally, they just exist. So they're based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, so they somehow had to get it there. So anyway, the interview is interesting. Hartland says in an interview that they were contacted, they said they wanted to get it graded as soon as possible, and his response was, "I was like, yeah, jump in line. You're the 20th person that said they had the card." I wonder if one of the other people was 001 out of whatever, 700 or whatever for the English run, of the One Ring. But then he looked into it and he said, "I'm 99% sure that this is actually the One Ring. They must have held it up to a webcam." Nah, they probably sent him a high res. Oh, they do tell the story. Okay, I found a second news article. So he flew to Toronto personally from their headquarters in Nova Scotia, secured the card from the owner's representatives, and then took it straight to California. So it was then authenticated, graded as mint, 9.0 in case you didn't hear, and then he got on an overnight flight back to Toronto. So it sounds like a really fast turnaround because duh, like I said in the last video. So seriously, to the conspiracy people saying, "But it takes weeks to get something graded." And sometimes it doesn't. Now, what is the difference with this one, do you think, if you had to guess? So in his best estimation, he thinks a private buyer might buy it, and when they do, you are not going to hear from this card anytime again. You will not see it on the market. I can name one place right now where you can buy a Splendid Genesis. TCG Player, eBay, and everywhere else you'd probably look don't have it. Some websites got it for, I think, the USD equivalent of $72,000. Yeah, there's not a lot floating around, and there's 200 to 300 of those if I remember correctly. Although the real number and who kept it and, Well, David Adams back in the States, I guess, got all pissy over it after they couldn't bid high enough. That's still my theory on the narrative there. They showed the full barcode, which means all fakers have to do is fake that. So then you'd have to get the outer casing authenticated. So if somebody's going to buy it and sit on it, and not be like, I'm publicly buying it because I'm so-and-so big company and I like prestige. Well, there ain't no like encryption on that barcode, you know what I mean? The number is right there, we already know it. If I were them, I would have covered it every single time they possibly could, although if they're serialized and if they're not enough digits, you could probably just brute force find it with a bot on their website. So like, I get it, but I would have covered it with tape. But then again, you need them to verify. So it's like, they were just kind of dicks for leaking it, would be my estimation. So the last thing, we have got hundreds of people weighing in on this, and they still collectively cannot agree how much this person is going to owe in capital gains taxes. First of all, they do not owe it if they keep it themselves. They owe it when they sell it, because that is when the income is incurred. Oh, by the way, all this is just my understanding. I know US tax codes pretty well. Canada, I'm just going off of kind of what I've heard and what I feel is probably correct. But I guess, like, they're saying there's tax brackets. So, like, your capital gains is based on what you made on non-capital gain stuff, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, while also simultaneously making more sense than the US tax code. So it's somewhere between 24 and 50% is what people are saying, and people are saying it's probably not 50% if they're working retail. And then all the comments are, ha ha ha, Canadian inflation and garbage housing markets, they should move to America. And yeah, they should. So it's being reported that Dave and Adams, who I will continue to still call Dave and Buster because I think it's funny, have offered 1 million, but a completely different card shop in Spain is the one that offered 2 million euros. Allegedly. Look, I could offer 3 million and nothing's legally binding. I mean, did they get it in writing? I'll offer 10 million for it right now. Haha, asterisk, terms and conditions apply. One of those terms and conditions is I'm not going to do that because I'm broke. And people are saying, well, it's going to go lower than that. I can't imagine why they would think that. But I also think that store just wanted notoriety. I think they're going to back out and say, oh, we got outbid, or there was complications, or, oh, there's this thing we didn't think of. But everybody mentioned our name. Keep mentioning our name. Now, remember, I said before, I don't think this is going to go for above between 50 and 100,000, and I stand by that. Although, like, go for versus what it's actually worth on the market are two different things. That's more what I meant. Because I know darn well what Splendid Genesis is worth. So if they were smart, they would auction it. How do you make sure you get the best buyer? You auction it. Now the problem is you got to build that up. It's not going to be a separate auction. It sure as hell ain't going to be eBay. You go to like Sotheby's or something, I don't know. But the problem is they take like an enormous percent. Double digits for sure is what I heard. Because they're like, oh, but we could bring in the clientele and market it. Okay, well, also every news agency in this entire gaming sphere could as well. We don't need you. This isn't like some, thing where people are like, I don't know, bid 100, but it's really worth 100,000, but you need to bring in the right type of bidder. I don't think this is that type of situation. And yet still, I feel like it would hit the news cycle again even harder, and then like the date, and everybody would be watching it, and then they'd be talking about watching it, and streamers would be watching it live, and it could get the hype train going just by snowballing even more by setting a date instead of just, oh, everybody email me your offers, So the only question left is what are they going to do when this, auction's off for like 3.4 mil or something, who knows? And then somebody pulls another one out of the gift pack. And then somebody pulls it out of Mark Rosewater's desk. That'll be fun. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.